Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a reading for a new client named Henry. And Henry, I have already, as I emailed you before, Henry asked for a first operation of the OOTK, and I've already done the reading. Basically, I drew the cards, wrote it on all out, so that way I could have it all in my head before I start, spewing word vomit. And that's how I'm going to do them from now on. This is actually probably going to be my last opening of the key video, just because it's becoming too much of a technological issue, and just it takes a really long time to film them, and I feel like the quality isn't as good. So as far as the actual reading is concerned. So from now on, I am going to be writing out my opening of the key readings. So anywho, Henry, congratulations, you have the last video one, and you being just the first operation, the reading only really tells you about the present situation and looking at it, I guess, in an analytical way. Other than that, it doesn't really give you much of a conclusion or much insight into what is yet to come. So I just want you to bear that in mind as you listen to this reading. This reading is not necessarily designed to say what is in your future. It's really designed to say what's in your here and now, and hopefully can give you some new ways of thinking about your here and now, so that you can change it to something that you would rather have. So Henry's question was about his love life, basically just looking at that primarily, what's going on there. So I cut, I invoked and all that, cut them into the piles, and the pile that you ended up in, and I guessed it on the first try, was the air pile, and you were represented on the top as the Knight of Cups. So it seems to me that pursuing a relationship is really heavily on your mind right now. You're thinking about it an awful lot, and a lot of your I almost want to say that you're strategizing about it a lot, and that also has to do with what you actually have in your string here. So of course I'm using the taut deck, my go-to reading deck. Okay, so let's see what we have here. As always, my camera's a pain in the butt too, again, which is why I don't want to do video readings anymore. Okay, so we have Henry is a Sagittarius, so for you, I used the Knight of Wands as your significator, Henry. You're here, and you are aspected by the Two of Wands and the Prince of Discs here. So it seems that you are an incredibly motivated and ambitious person. You are kind of career oriented. You're a hard worker, but you also are very ambitious. And I think that you count to the Two of Swords and then to the Five of Pentacles. And it seems to me that you are trying to find some peace of mind in regards to uh, kind of a hole that you seem to feel in your life. You feel like something's missing, and you're very eager to fill it. And I think well, we'll see where we go from there. You'll see. So so we start there. From the Five of Discs, we get to the Fool, which is aspected by, well, it isn't aspected by either, because the two cards on the sides cancel each other out. So from there, the Fool, we get this idea that you are really eager, possibly a little over eager. You're almost a little manic about it. You seem very excited to find something new, to explore, and you're also just a really free spirit, which I think is great. But the interesting thing too, as we see, because the Fool counts to the Ten of Wands here. The Ten of Wands is your birth card. I noticed you were born in the third decan of Sagittarius, and so your kind of karmic lesson in this life is a lot to do with the Ten of Wands and the idea of oppression. And when I say oppression, I sort of mean more just your ability to express yourself, limitations you um, that you feel are imposed upon yourself, uh, limitations in your environment, anything like that, I think probably has had a pretty big impact on your life narrative. And it seems to me that this is another example here. Your love life right now is another example in which you are struggling to express yourself freely, to be the free spirited, fun person that you are, with sort of general restriction and limitation. Now, the ironic thing, perhaps, is that I feel like you're the one who's actually being a little uh, oppressive, not the oppressed. You seem very uh, bent on creating this relationship for yourself, whatever you're looking for, and either you have very specific criteria that you're trying to fit someone into, or you have a very dominating personality. And I think, or possibly your amount of liberalness is a little overwhelming to some people. And I think it's getting you into trouble with your dating life. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that leads to the Five of Wands, which aspected by the Two of Wands and the Two of Swords. So really, I mean, it's causing you to butt heads with people, and instead of jiving with people or creating real emotional relationships. Like, there is very little water in your string right now, and the water cards that you do have are really quite bleak. The most positive one you have is the Ace of Cups, and that's only an ace. It hasn't actually become anything. So, you know, it just seems to me that you are a little bit too aggressive in pushing yourself on people, to a degree, or just you expect people to uh, either accept you, like all of you, right away, and I don't know if that's quite right, and perhaps um, when they don't, it frustrates you, because I definitely sense there's a lot of frustration that you have about this area of your life. Um, because when we count from the Five of Wands, we get to the Seven of Pentacles, the Seven of Discs, aspected by the Tower and the Eight of Wands. And so it seems to me that, like, your relationships that you do tend to form with people, because you're so almost competitive about them. I think that's the other thing too, is that part of you perhaps sees, because you're so ambitious, part of you perhaps sees creating a relationship as something that you need to compete about, like you're competing for a mate or something like that. That may or may not be true, but that's sort of a vibe that I'm getting. And I think that because you're basing all of these relationships on wanting to overcome this problem and wanting to assert yourself and make yourself feel valid, because again, I think you do tend to look at yourself as lacking, and I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think it's sort of a self-deception that you aren't really lacking. None of us are really lacking when it comes to the relationship department. Um, all of us need to see ourselves as complete in and of ourselves. But when you base looking for a relationship or trying to create relationships with people on either competition or um, just general unrest, and kind of strife about, I guess, about just that whole issue of expressing yourself versus kind of moderating yourself. When you do that, it doesn't work out for you. And this has been a problem probably several times for you. You've probably had several issues like this, in which prospective partners or whatnot have not really uh, attached themselves to you, simply because I think you come on a little strong, frankly. And I think you expect a lot out of people very quickly, if that makes sense. And by all means, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's sort of the impression that I'm getting here. And so, having no foundation, these relationships collapse very easily. 5, 6, 7. So I think right now you're also, when we count away from the 7 of discs, we get to the 8 of cups. I think right now you're kind of taking a break from dating. I think you're probably a little fed up with it at the moment and sort of just trying to leave it be, uh, and possibly focusing more on just friendships right now. 5, 6, 7, 8. But then we count back to the 5 of Wands, which ends the string. So I still think that part of you is either still very aggressive about it, or just frustrated about it, or really just a little too competitive about it, if that all makes sense. So now, from there we paired, and I pair away from the significator. I don't pair from the outside in, and with the 2 of Wands and the Prince of Discs, I wrote that you're very again, you're very motivated and you're very hardworking. The Ace of Cups and the 5 of Wands, I don't consider aces to be fully elementally realized, and so if they are paired with an opposing element, I don't consider them to cancel each other out. So in this case, I feel like this confirms the idea that you are just competing for a new relationship. You know, the Ace of Cups representing that new relationship that you want but don't have, and the 5 of Wands being this sort of strife, this butting of heads that you seem to keep having when it comes to making a new relationship. Then you get the 2 of Swords and the 4 of Swords. And just I think this just represents that approach has not been successful. It has a very stalemate sense to it, like you just haven't really gotten anywhere with that method of forcing it. From there, we get the 5 of Discs and the 10 of Cups. So again, this sort of echoes the idea that the relationships that you have tried to make have not had very much foundation to them. And the 5 of Discs being sort of different in the first way around, perhaps it's saying that part of the reason that you are unable to create more lasting, permanent relationships is because you lack confidence in yourself, which I don't know why. You seem to be very, I think you're letting your love life dictate your opinion of yourself, and I don't think that that's right for you. It's really clouding your judgment. I think that's why you have the Fool, and the Fool isn't entirely positive here. I don't think, because this is sort of more of a mundane situation. I don't think the Fool is telling you that you're following the spirit blindly, so to speak. I think it's more that you're kind of just not seeing things entirely clearly right now, and you're getting a little jumbled by it. From there, we get the 8 of Wands, the 8 of Cups, those cancel out. 7 of Discs and 5 of Swords, those cancel out, but they both generally really mean just misfortune, defeat and minor just speed bumps and hiccups in your love life. Then we get the Tower and the 10 of Wands. Get down, cats. The Tower and the 10 of Wands, which really does seem to me that the again having to do with collapse. I think that when you invest, you invest in your relationships very quickly, I think, and as such you again, it's all about expectation. I think you expect people to reciprocate that just as easily. And I have this problem too. This is how I go through life as well, and it's a lesson that I've had to learn myself lately. And maybe that's why you've come to me at this time. Life is funny like that. But I do think that when we impose what we when we impose ourselves upon people in relationships like that, it never works out. And you always want to look for a relationship in which the flow of happiness, so to speak, is equal, and is a two-way street and not a one-way street. And I think you're just so frustrated and fed up that and you're so used to taking charge in life that I think you just want to have control over this situation so badly that you are forcing people to leave you before they even really get to know you, you know. And the overall result is the knight is rather the Fool and the Knight of Cups. So and that really just represents that you. I wrote that you continue to seek out new relationships anyway, but that this is not necessarily a smart move for you. So overall, I think it's telling, excuse me, it is suggesting to you that that this is not necessarily something that you should try to control. That if anything, trying to control the situation is really damaging your prospects right now. And I would say to just let it go as much as you possibly can and try to focus on something else. I also consulted the I-ching for you because the first operation doesn't have, excuse me, doesn't have an overall outcome, and I wanted to be able to give you some more clear advice here. And the I-ching that results that you got, or at least that I received to give to you, were the 60th hexagram, and I just started doing I-ching, so my pronunciation is non-existent. But you get the 60th hexagram, which means basically setting limitations, which I thought was very poignant for you. And you had your second line was moving of that hexagram, so you also received the third hexagram, which basically translates to difficulty and danger in the beginning. And I use, by the way, because I've never shown this, and I just got this, but I use Wu Wei's book translation of the I Ching, and I really like it. But his translations of things are a little more modernized and less exact. Like the 60th hexagram probably does not actually translate literally to setting limitations, but that's what it means. So I wrote for overall, I think the advice for you that you received from that is just don't rush. Accept moderation, as this is an important life lesson for you. Again, being born into the Ten of Wands, I think moderation and restriction of yourself is something that you have a really hard time with, and I just think that it could benefit you to try to learn how to be a little bit more patient, I think, and a little bit more. I don't want to say reserved because I don't want to tell you to suppress yourself, but I do think that you could benefit from not coming on so strongly, rather, especially right away. I think you should give people a little bit more space to breathe so that they can really enjoy your personality and not feel overwhelmed by it. Because you don't want to do that. Because I'm sure that you're a really nice guy, and I'm sure that this is just misguided action and not a character flaw. So it really just it emphasized also that you are kind of ignoring something right now in your life that really requires your attention, and perhaps this romantic situation is distracting you from it. It seems to be pulling your attention away from something that you actually need to be focusing on, and it says that you really need to act on that now. And if you ignore it, misfortune will come your way. If you approach it and if you just do it, whatever it is that you're putting off, you will be successful, and that will be a good thing. And then the second hexagram, I think it just is emphasizing that you're making things too difficult for yourself by expecting so much so soon. I just think that if you invest all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, right away, then it's not going to it isn't going to work out for you. So I hope that this all made sense, and that it was it was advice that you could understand and digest and think about properly and whatnot. And I do hope that this is just helpful for you. I totally relate to your situation. I've been going through very similar things over this past winter, and so you have my sympathy, my friend. So I hope that you're able to grow from this and be able to act more positively for yourself And just I just think don't worry about it. I'm sure that you know you're a great person, and I'm sure that you're wonderful in your own right, and you really don't need something or someone else to fill in that gap for you. I think the only I mean we always have to remember that the only person that can fill in our own gaps is ourself and God, and that's about it. No other transitory thing or person will ever really fulfill that in us, and it is very important to remember that. So again, I hope this was helpful. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you very much for your support of my channel and my readings and all that. So thank you very much, and take care. Bye bye.